Hello and welcome to another Python tutorial, but this one would be a bit different than the ones before. And what I mean by that is, what I was doing so far is, I would get a Python library and I would see what works and what doesn't work, and then make one video to sum all those points. Now, in this one, I'm going to go through the process of how I try to understand the library, and at the moment I have no idea regarding this holidays library, which according to Google is, well, it's the #1 result if I search for holidays with Python. And the description is that it's a fast and efficient Python library for generating country, province, and state-specific sets of holiday on the fly. It aims to make determining whether a specific date is a holiday as fast as flexible as possible. So there are some examples of code that we will go through and see how good this library is, what it can be used for. If there are some limitations, then what are those limitations? And if there's some room for improvement, then what are those? So at the moment, again, unless you know something about this library, then we know the same. If you do, then you probably know more than me. And I'm going to start with the home page, and I'm just going to share my thoughts out loud to see what works and how I'm going to process with the information that I read here. And basically my goal would be, and this might happen, might not happen, because I'm not sure if the library allows it or not, but I would like to see which country has the most holiday days, which states in the US have the most holiday days, as well as in India. So let's start and see how far we can get. So first, before focusing on the goal, we need to understand what it works and how it's structured. So I'm going to have this on half of my screen, and on the left side I would have just a Python file that I'm going to write the code in. So example, we have a variable US holidays that is equal to holidays dot, and I guess after importing holidays, this is how we would access the separate countries. But so I'm going to use the same. So from datetime, import date and import holidays. And let's see. So we can access it by also holidays.us, which is of course short for United States, or we can access them holidays.countryholiday.us, which probably gives the same outcome. And I like this third one the most, because if we're going to loop through a list of countries, then we are going to need that. So what else we can do is we can check if a date is a holiday in that country or not. So US holiday in this case is holidays.us. But let's see what that is. Maybe that's a good start. And down here we have the countries. I'm not sure if all the countries are involved. Seems like quite a short list, so I would expect that it's not, it doesn't support all countries, but probably most. Then we have the code, because up here we saw that we can also use that code to access the holiday. So I guess we can use either of these. And then we have province or state for the countries available. So for Canada, we have some provinces, for Germany and so on. India, I'm not sure if it should be province or state. Probably state. And for US, we have state. So at least for our goal to plot the states in US and the ones in India, that looks good for now. And this is what we're interested in. So how do we get to the data? So we're going to use this holidays, which was mentioned just a bit up here. It was .United States. And so this holiday base would be the country, or this abbreviation. Then we need to specify years as a list. And let's try to say US holidays as holidays.us. And then years. But I guess that it's specified here as list because it can be used for multiple years, but I can imagine that if we only specify like 1 year, that should also work. Let's see. I'm going to print US holidays and see what we get as output. And we're going to run into errors along the way probably, but that's fine. So we have a dictionary based on the brackets. We have the date as key, and the description or the name of the holiday is the value. Okay, so we can loop through the dictionary, and what I'm going to do is, instead of printing US holiday, I'm going to print for every date in US holidays, I want to print first the date and then the holiday, but the holiday is the value and the date is the key. So I have to use US holidays and then date, which is my key. Let's see whether this gives us a better overview. Yeah, we can see that it seems as it's in the correct order, so from January to December, so that is good. We have one of these holidays doubled, and it says observed. So let's see what that is. Oops. So we have years. We know how to specify that. Expand equals to true. Expand is a Boolean value which specifies whether or not to append holidays in new years. Okay, we're not going to append holidays in new years, so I'm going to leave that as the default. Observed, this is what we just saw. A Boolean value which, when set to true, which is the default, will include the observed day of holiday that falls on a weekend when appropriate. So that means that if a holiday falls on a weekend and is moved to another day, then we also get, so then it's being doubled, and that's not what we want. Because in here what we have is, I can imagine that this is either one of them is like on Saturday or Sunday, while the other one is either Friday or Monday. So I'm going to set this observed to false, because looking at the number of holidays, I don't want Independence Day to be counted twice. So years 2020 observed is equal to false. Now we should hopefully get rid of that. Okay, so that looks better. So the first conclusion from this library is, if you're looking to not double the holidays, and I don't see a reason why you should do that, then set observed to false even though the default is true. First point. For the rest, we need to specify province or state, and I guess that we can also iterate through a list of states, so maybe that's something that we can do next. So holidays.canada, okay, this shows that if we use the full name or the abbreviation, leads to the same list of holidays, so that's fine. For date name in sorted, I don't know if we should sort this, because our list was already sorted, but it could be that it's in US sorted, but maybe in, I don't know, some state in US or a country or somewhere it's not the case. So if you saw that the holidays are not sorted, but for some reason you need them to be sorted, then this is how you would do that. So you would use sorted and then basically the same part. But then to access, you would use .items and print date and the name of the holiday. But that's not really necessary for this video, so I'm not going to go through that. And this is just checking if a date is a holiday or not. North America. Okay, so it's here, it sums up the Canada, US, and Mexico into just the North America. All right. Okay, so this is something interesting. Holidays dot, then the country, and then dot provinces. I guess that also should work with states. That we should get a list of the states. So let's check that. I'm going to copy this part out, but we're going to use that later on. Maybe if we figure out that, I don't know, something doesn't make sense, add some country. So, but for now I'm going to print, just to see if it works, holidays.us.states. So let's see if we would get like all the states or not. Okay, so that looks good. Well, I'm going to store that into a variable states. Now I have the list of all the states, and well, we need to iterate. Okay, I think actually we have enough information that we can work with, because in here this is actually the main one that we need, because now we can just specify the state and iterate over this list. I think that would be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a for loop, but we have to store the outcome into some data set. So that would be like, let's say data set would be an empty list, and here what we would have is we would have, for example, state, and then we would have number of holidays in that state, and then state 2, and then number of holidays in that state, and so on. So we want to create a dictionary with the state and then the number of holidays in that state. So for example, but at the beginning we have an empty list, and what we want to do is for state in states, maybe what we can do is dataset.append. And what we want to append here is, there are two things, right? Because we want to append first state to be equal to state, so the one that we have coming from our list, and then holiday days, and that would be equal to the length, so how many elements are there in holidays.us, and then in the brackets we would have years equals 2020, observed should be equal to false, so I'm copying this part from in here. Now state should be equal to the state that we iterate through. And if I print the data set, let's see if we get something that makes sense. Okay, so this is what I would expect. So we have our dictionary and we have the number of holidays in each state. They're not sorted per the number of days, so we need to sort that before we plot, so it looks like it's descending. All right, but in order to do that, I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to import pandas as PD, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to import matplotlib.pyplot as plt, because we want to plot that. So I'm not going to print the data set, but I'm going to convert it into data frame. So my data frame would be equal to pd.dataframe and then data set. So I'm creating a data frame from my data set. Then I want to sort them. So df.sort values, and I want to sort them by the holiday days, right? And ascending should be equal to false, because I want them to be descending. And if I use just like if I plot them, I would have quite a lot of information plotted, but let's see if it at least plots, and then see if we can plot less information. So df.plot, and what I want to plot is the kind would be bar. To the x I would want to have the state, so state, and to the y I would like to have the holiday days, and plt.show. Let's see if we get at least, I'm not saying that it would make a lot of sense, but it should look with all the, so we have a lot of bars. There are a lot of bars on this plot, And there is like the number one is Texas, which seems, I don't know if it's plausible or not, but 20 holiday days. What I'm going to do is, instead of plotting all, here I will just set 0 to 10. So I want to plot just like the top 10 states in US, sorted per number of holiday days. And this looks much better actually. And I mean, this is one of the goals that I had. I'm happy with this. Of course, I'm not sure if the data is correct. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to check TX state, so the Texas state, just to see if we have some double holidays or not. So this part I'm going to comment out, and I'll use this part up here. State is equal to TX, and let's see if we get a double holiday or not. Maybe it's fine. I don't see any double, so I would say it looks good. So this library has passed one test when it comes to plotting US holidays per state. I mean, at least I just checked for one state, but so far it looks good. So I would say well done. Of course, all the credit goes to DR Prodigy, which is the person behind this library, at least the one who initiated it. All right, then let's see if we can do the same for India. What would be the outcome? So I'm going to copy this part out. And here, if I check India, I saw that it's not states, it's provinces. And we have to just follow the syntax, otherwise we get an error. So here, instead of states, I would have provinces would be equal to holidays dot, let's say en dot provinces. Then the data set would be again empty, so that's fine. Then for every province in provinces, we want to append province, which would be equal to province holiday days. That's okay. Length of holiday days dot in, so the in India, and here you want province to be equal to province. Then we still want to sort them by holiday days, that's fine, but when we plot we want this to be province. Let's see how this looks like. Although we do have 10 states, I'm not sure if the data is correct, because we get like 9 holiday days, and I know quite some people from India that either live in India or live somewhere else, and I mean India is one of the most festive countries, so to have like 9 holidays a year, I find that a bit odd. And if someone from India is watching this video, please comment and let me know if my understanding is correct, but I would not expect that there are 9 holidays. I can imagine that this library has a lot of room for improvement when it comes to individual countries. So it could be that some countries are missing on one side, but on the other side, it could be that some countries don't have all the holidays in. And I can imagine that that's not the case for US, but looking at India, I'm quite sure that that is the case. So, but this is also a nice project for someone that's just starting with Python maybe, and just to figure out how this works. Because if you see, for example, Republic Day, just one line of code, that's it. Well, 3 lines of code, let's say, but it probably started as of 1950, and it's every year on January 26th. That's it. Independence Day, that's as of 1948, actually. Oh, actually 1947, so it's greater or equal, and it's every year at the same date. So that's quite simple, but there are quite some, probably, let's say US, but I can imagine that there are a lot of holidays that fall on a given day of the week. So for example, the first Monday of a month, or the second Thursday or something. Like for example, Let me see. Here. So we have, the weekday has to be Monday plus 3. So this is basically a code that you would use for, let's see, maybe we can check that. So state VA and the year over 2000. Let's see what this part of the code does. And this is also the part of the process. So I'm going to comment this part out. I'm going to go back in here and state VA, just going to print all. Let's see what we get. Let's see how we get to this, to the Lee Jackson Day. So it's 17th of January. So I can imagine that this means the third Monday of the year. Because at the end, that's my explanation of that, and it makes sense. Now here we have, if it's a Sunday, then we get it on the day after. This is another example, but I would only dive into this if you want to contribute to this library. Otherwise, yeah, it would be quite time consuming to go holiday by holiday for all countries, for all states even. But yeah, for a beginner, that would be still something interesting to work on. And so I would say this test, the library didn't really pass, because having 9 holidays in India, not that convinced. I'm not that convinced. But let's continue and let's see whether we can at least plot the countries and see if, but we can already see that some countries are not up to date when it comes to the holidays. So what we need is, we need to find a list of all these holidays. Okay, so this is the import part. Maybe if we go to the initialize, we get something. List supported countries. Let's see if this works. If we would get, if I print holidays dot list supported countries, let me see whether this is what we're looking for. Alright, so it's a function, so I need to run it. Okay, it is, I mean, it looks so it has not only the full names but also the abbreviations, and that is not what we are looking for, because we don't want JPN and Japan, we only want one. But how we can get around this is if we say that our countries would be everything, all the elements in here that are over 3 letters, because all the countries have at least like 4 letters anyway. So let me try that. I'm going to have countries which would be equal to empty list, and then for every country in holidays.list supported countries, if length of country is greater than 3, then countries.append country. If that's not the case, then, well, it's not going to be part of our list. So let's run this. Okay, I need to also print countries. Hey, there we go. That looks much better, and this is indeed what we're looking for. So this is going to be my part of the code that is equal to getting the provinces in the previous part. So let's modify that a bit. So I'm going to change that, and I'll get the countries up there. And I encourage you to use comments. So in here, what you can do is you can just specify that this part of the code is creating a list of all the countries available within the library. And then we want to run for every country in our countries list. We want to again append, oh, we got rid of the data set, so data set. And then what we need is country to be equal to country. Holiday days, that remains as holiday days. Here we don't need this. We need to use the other way to, that's this one. So country would be in the bracket. So holidays dot country holiday. And here we need to specify country, and then years, that would be fine. This would be same. Province, we don't need that anymore, so we'll get rid of the province. Down here we'll create a data set again, that's fine. Here we would have country. Let's see if we run it like this. Maybe not. Let's plot it as well. Never mind. Let's see, unless we get an error. Alright, so we got an error. Korea has no, okay, so I think this was one, there was something in the initial one that apparently these Korean and Vietnam are not really working correctly. Now we can also get rid of, also I don't see any fix actually in this one. But instead of changing the whole code, what we're going to do is, and instead of removing them from our countries list, here I will use just a try and except. So try to do that, and not, it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So we're going to skip like one, maybe one country, but that's fine. Oops. Accept pass. And this is what we get now. We do get a plot, but it seems that we have a bit more work to do when it comes to the data, because if you take a look at Sweden and Norway, I mean, probably the people there would love to have over 60 holiday days, but honestly, I doubt that's the case. Israel could be, but it's also quite high. So those are 3 countries that we need to check and see why do we get such a large amount of holiday days. So Sweden, Norway, Israel. So I'll put here a comment: Sweden, Norway, Israel, and let's see what's going on in those countries that the library plots such high amounts. So in here, what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to use the same country holiday, and then here I would have, let's start with Sweden. Years 2020 observed, that's false. State, we don't need that. And I know that this is not for US, so here we can just say test of holidays, and this would be test holidays. Test holidays, and let's see. So let's start with Sweden, and then let's see what makes sense and what. I think this is probably like Sunday. I'm not sure, but one way to figure out. Google Translate. So Sunday is, according to the library, also a holiday. Now, I do understand that people don't work on Sunday, most of the people at least, but that doesn't make it a holiday. So if I go to here to Sweden, that's part of the code that I would not really agree on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something else. I'm going to create in here, except for the dataset, I'm going to create a not holiday list. And at the moment we have, maybe it would be just this one, hopefully, but maybe not. At the moment we have this one only. So this is a word, and later on we're going to check down here to make sure that we don't include that. But let's also check now for Norway and Israel. So Norway, if I print this out, this seems like almost the same, except we have a different O than the O in Sweden. So this would be a different word that should not be treated as a holiday. All right, and then let's check Israel as well. Now this could be, I'm not familiar with the holidays there, but at least we don't have any Sundays. And I know that, for example, Hanukkah is multiple days, so I would say that's correct. And what we can do is, let's check Hanukkah 2020. And according to it's 11th. So in the evening, this seems quite correct. So we don't need to make any changes actually for Israel. It seems like it's okay. So I'm going to comment this part out. I don't need any more these countries. Let's move to the part that's like the most important part, which is our code. So we have a list of not holidays, and we don't want to see these words as holidays. But how do we get that? Because basically what we're looking for is, it's a dictionary that is being returned, and we don't want these two words to appear as values. So what we need to do here is, and I'm going to do something different. I'm thinking about creating a variable x, which would be 0 at the beginning. And then what I'm going to do is, for value in holidays.country, holiday, country, then years equals 2020, and observed is false. If the value, maybe here we need to also do dot values. If the value is not in the not holiday list, then I want that x to increase by 1. And else pass. So what I do here is, I start with 0, so every country has 0 holidays, and then I check the values. I check the description, and if the description is not one of these two words, then I add it and I count it as a holiday. Then down here what we need to do is, country is fine, but now the holidays would be just a simple x. Simple as that, because we already counted that in here. And now plotting hopefully would get rid of these large look at that. Apologies to those in Sweden and Norway, but it's not my fault that you just suddenly went from like 60 holidays to a lot less, but hey, it's the data. But Israel looks that is the country with the most holidays according to the data that is currently in the library. I'm not sure how trustworthy that is, so I would not state that Israel has the most holidays in the world, because data is not complete. But again, if somebody wants to contribute to this and is a beginner, I would say that this is a nice project. It would be quite a simple one and would require a bit of testing. One thing that I would keep in mind is, if you want to contribute and if you're working on this library, then don't forget to add the year, because let's say India, because here I saw that it starts, like for example this one starts as of 1950, and that is good. Like if you have the year, that's fine, But if you have a holiday that has no starting year, it means that it would, like, if you specify years to be 1, I mean, probably there were holidays back then, but maybe not these ones. I guess I can imagine that in a lot of countries that maybe in here in the code that's not taken into account. But I think that would be all when it comes to this library, because we did cover the functions that it offers. And if I have to sum it up, I would say that it works quite good when it comes to analyzing the holidays in US, probably per state, not 100% sure. I would not use it for other countries, so it's not fully complete, and definitely not for India but again, I'm not sure, but 9 holidays a year seems fairly low to me. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of this video, whether you like it more than the others or not. And yeah, that would be all. And I guess I'll see you, well, not really see you, but until next time. Actually, there's one more thing. If I go back to the search holidays in Python, there were a few articles that appeared as top results. And what I would like to do is to see whether the findings in those articles match with the findings that we have from the last 30 something minutes. Because what often happens is that people write articles on things that work without mentioning the ones that don't work. And it could be that we have the same in here, but let's take a look into that. So in this link we have specified the parameter, so that is good. Although the text is copied, but that's completely fine. And we have an example of code for importing, so for getting the holidays from one country with the output. Check whether holidays or not. Holidays in North America, we also saw that as an example, so they just copied that part. This is also copied. Custom holidays, this is how to add holiday, but it never mentions that. And that's it actually. So it never mentions that there's some inconsistency or missing data. So that's one thing that I would say that's not very good. I mean, if I'm making a review or when I want to understand the library, I want to make sure that I point out the good and the bad things. And this is more of a cherry picking, like this works and what doesn't work, well, or it could be that the people who wrote these things they don't really go into detail to understand the library, just follow the examples that are on the GitHub profile, on the GitHub link. So what we have here is, so how to install it, pip install holidays, and the imports. Not sure why NumPy, but okay. This is just getting the dates. And it's pretty much it. Timestamps. Wow, this is really difficult to read. I don't know why would someone try to have booleans for the dates. I mean, this one, you never know which date it is. Like this. This is a bit better, but I mean, why get a 1 or 0 instead of the holiday? That's pretty much it. I mean, there is no really insight of the library. So my conclusion is that whoever is writing these articles is just following the examples from the GitHub. That's it. Not really understanding, not really even going into details to see if there's something wrong. Countries. So again, you have all the countries. So I don't know, but this seems like it has also the months, like August. Let me see if we have. Okay, so here is January. There we go with February. So if whoever worked this also included March, May, also the months. So this not really accurate. I'm not sure how he got to these. Probably using some of the methods, but that's not correct. And just one example for Italy, and that's it. So as you can see, and this is something that to be very cautious about when when reading some articles, it could be that they just do that so they have content to publish, not really going into detail. And I don't want to do that, because if I could make a video, for example, I can still make a video and just show you how everything works well for US states and wrap it up. But if you're using the same library for other countries, you will not get the result that you expect, and that's not what I want to do. I just want to be objective and provide a full picture. But I have to say that, of course, all the credit goes to the person behind the GitHub project, which is, of course, he deserves some credit because of the initiative. And of course, one person, it's not reasonable to expect that one person would complete all this information. So hopefully other people would contribute, and we will see this library a bit better over time. And until next time.